Welcome everyone to our September 12th Planning Commission meeting. If you'd all please, and the chair recognizes a quorum, so if you'd please stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is approval of minutes. Everyone had a chance to read the minutes from August? Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, I'll call for a motion. Mr. Hill makes a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Mr. Maxwell seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next is approval of agenda. Do we have any additions or corrections to our agenda? If not, I'll call for a motion.
Make a motion.
Patrick makes a motion. Who?
Second.
Seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
I did, wasn't here.
Mr. Rumbaugh abstained. Move on to new business. You got that? Public hearing for petition RP 2207 to vacate and replat. Chester and Mary Wallace are requesting to vacate lots 80, 81, 82 in Fox Run subdivision and replat them to one lot. The property is located on 3249, 3263, and 3275 North Pine Song Drive in Washington Township in Zone R1. Mr. and Mrs. Wallace, would you like to come up and present, please? Address and explain what you're asking to do.
Yeah, Chester Wallace, 3275 North Pine Song Drive, Martinsville, Indiana. I'm wanting to replat the lots together. I have a lot of insurances getting kind of high, and I'm wanting to get all the insurances to one. I can't do it if I had a building put on one. And we're wanting to, I had to get a separate insurance company, and my umbrella policy don't carry on them. Plus, I want to have it in case something happens to wife and me, we're getting older, where my kids don't have to deal with it. They have it all in one lot.
So you're just asking to make 3 lots into one? That's
Yes.
correct. Any questions for Mr. Wallace?
How long have you lived out there?
About 6 years.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Parker, would you like to give your?
It's a pretty straightforward request. I provided that for you in my staff report. The only thing that I will just note is that we do have had, in the past, have had several vacate replats in this subdivision, and it's pretty common in this case. Sometimes these lots can be challenging to build, and of course, the rationale for wanting to combine them is perfectly acceptable. So staff recommends support of this request.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no one else signed up to speak on either for or against, so this closes the public portion of our hearing. Floor is open for discussion.
I do not assume that there's a homeowners association or fees charged to these lots.
There's no homeowner association out there.
Not that.
Any other questions or comments or discussion? No? In that case, then I will call for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve petition RP 22-07 to vacate and replat 3 lots in the Fox Run subdivision into one lot.
We have a motion to vacate and replat. Do we have a second?
Jason Maxwell seconds.
Jason Maxwell seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Careering back here.
Ready to go? Go to item B, public hearing for petition Z 2203 to rezone. Dr. Sheik, on behalf of GDI Companies, is requesting to rezone 186 acres of agricultural to industrial 1. The property is located on North Everett Road in Monroe Township. Mr. Sheik, would you like to come and speak for us, please?
Good evening. Mike Sheik with GDI Companies, and thank you for letting me be here to petition for the rezoning. Just by way of introduction, GDI, we are a real estate developer and general contractor located in Indianapolis, founded in 2005. We do commercial and industrial construction and development, and mostly right now we're doing a lot of the industrial construction and development. Some of the projects that we've done in central Indiana that you may be aware of, one that's only a half mile north of this location, actually in Hendricks County, is Hendricks Gateway Park. It's a 213-acre industrial development that we've just completed the last building in. We also have a 200-acre park in Whitestown called Fishback Creek Business Park that we've completed 2 years ago. And we have a 400-acre park in Mount Comfort called East 70 Logistics Park that we just finished our third and fourth building in. So this is the kind of work that we do. The project, the subject property is 186 acres, as you mentioned, just west of Monrovia. And here's County Line Road, so it's just south of County Line Road. And there's a 105-acre parcel on the west side of Everett Road. And then there's another 80 acres on the east side of Everett Road. Our plan for this is a conceptual plan, but we show 4 buildings totaling up to 3 million square feet of space. These, going along with the I-1 zoning, would be typically logistics, warehouse-type buildings. If you've seen some of the buildings out there near the interstate, you'll know what type of buildings these are. But it lays out very well for what we'd like to do here. Also, you've got in your packet some zoning commitments that came from our purchase agreement with the sellers. And so we've shown us some of those things on here, some of the landscape buffer and some of the setbacks that are required that we've agreed to do. The Morgan County Comprehensive Plan calls this area one of 4 intensity zones in the county that this type of development would be good for. And then also the Monrovia Comprehensive Plan, which was just recently updated, calls for this area to be industrial. So we feel like this is the highest and best use for this property. It's close to the interstate. It's close to a major thoroughfare, the County Line Road. And also, we're going to be bringing utilities to the property as well. 2 of the concerns that I've heard from talking to various town officials in the past, one is traffic, specifically at County Line Road and State Road 39. The other is drainage. So on the traffic issue, I have spoken to Tim Watson, who is the traffic engineer for the Crawfordsville District of INDOT. That intersection is calling for a roundabout, but not until 2007. So he told me what they would do in advance of that if we have a building in place before that roundabout, is they would put a traffic signal in there. And in fact, they did exactly that on the north side of that interchange in Hendricks County, and I think it's West Point Business Park.
Yeah.
They put a signal in for those folks there too. So we feel like that will accommodate the traffic concerns for that intersection. The other issue is the drainage. I understand there's a lake ditch, which is west of this property. And if you look at floodplain maps, a lot of the area to the west and south of our property tends to flood. Our project, when it's developed, we're going to have a civil engineer design it. We'll have detention ponds on site, so all the storm runoff from our building and our parking areas are going to be self-contained on the site. So we don't anticipate at all that our development's going to negatively affect any of the, potential flooding issues that might occur to the west and south of us. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Would you go over your commitments a little bit with us?
Sure.
That you have?
So, let me find them here.
You all should have a copy of his commitments.
So the first one refers to a landscape buffer that will be 50-foot wide and will run across the northern boundary of parcel 1. That's the one on the west side of Everett Road. And I think about 2,100 feet to the south along the western border. And that buffers, that's where one of the sellers, Sarah McCollum Knight, is maintaining some property on the western boundary. So that buffer will shield her from our property. And then we've also agreed to have an 8-foot tall undulating mound with specific landscaping on there that we've spelled out. And those are all things that have been agreed to in our purchase agreement, and they wanted to add them to the zoning commitments. There's some other issues or items in regards to dark sky lighting, which we agreed to do. And then there's several things here that I think fall under the zoning classifications anyway, but it was added to our purchase agreement just to make sure. And then item 6, I think in regards to the concern about flooding in this area, there are a lot of field tiles on the adjacent property, and the seller was concerned that our development might damage those field tiles. So, and again, we've done this kind of work all over central Indiana, always on farm ground. And so when we do that, field tiles are going to get hit. We replace them. So we've agreed in writing that we'll replace that we'll fix that, and if there is any, and then she has the ability to hire her own person to fix that if she wants to. So that's all spelled out in item 6. And then item 7, look at this. I think it's also in regards to the field tiles, or maybe I get them mixed up here. I think they're both in regards to field tiles. And then item 7 also addresses any damaged crops that might occur from flooding as a result of our development. Item 8, we've agreed to establish some dedicated green space on the property. We haven't gotten into specifics yet on what that might look like or how large it would be. Again, this is just a concept plan right now, but that's something that we've agreed to do. So as we start developing these buildings and finding owners or occupiers for them, then we will make space for that and coordinate that with the seller.
Retention bonds.
I think that's it.
No, they don't say it.
Any questions?
What about fire protection?
We'll have an ESFR fire protection system in there. So we will end up having probably a tower, not like a huge water tower, but just a tower on the property to help provide water pressure for those buildings. But we've also talked to the Morgan County Rural Water Corporation about us bringing water out there. So it would be designed to provide fire protection for those buildings.
What about the local fire department? I mean, they obviously will not have any kind of a piece of equipment that would suppress a fire should it happen.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear all your question.
What about the local fire department? Have you talked with anything to them?
We've not talked with them, no.
Will there be a sprinkler system?
It will be, yes.
any employees? I mean, obviously, you don't know who's gonna rent it, but would you expect employees working there, impacting the local community?
It really varies. The types of projects that we'll do, that we've done in our other developments, are going to be either a build-to-suit where you know you've got a specific company coming in and saying, we want you to build a building for us here, or a speculative warehouse, which is where a developer like ourselves builds the building without having a tenant or a user in mind, but with the confidence that we're going to rent it. We wouldn't want to build a building that large and that expensive if we thought it was going to sit there empty for a long time. And the market has been such that they get rented up pretty quickly. And so in those cases, we don't know what it will be. At Hendricks Gateway Park, just up the road from this on State Road 39 that we developed, one of the buildings, the second building was a 1 million square foot speculative building, and then a logistics provider, GXO, rented it, but their client who they're servicing and there is Apple Computers. And I think they were calling for 500 to 800 employees, and I don't know how many they actually have yet, but that was a huge win for Hendricks County. On top of the building, I think there was another $60 million of personal property investment in that building. So it turned out to be a great, and that was from a speculative development. I mean, that nobody knew who was going to go in. So I guess to answer your question, I don't know.
Well, you came close.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know if I missed it. Did you say what the amount of the amount is going to be invested in that?
Right now, I would say, I didn't say, but about for 3 million square feet, we're probably looking at about $210 million, and that's real property.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll boost our general fund.
Yeah, any other questions?
All of your planting in number 2 is gonna be non-invasive, correct?
Well, that'll be designed by our engineer, so we can make sure that that's the case.
I appreciate that. It is.
Any other questions?
Is this going to, this is out of the PUD that Hendricks County has, correct?
This is in Morgan County.
It's in Morgan.
It's in Morgan, so it's not any part of that.
It's no part of Hendricks County.
There would be tax abatements for future companies or anything.
They could always come and ask for that.
Well, okay, I just wanted to ask.
It's not in a TIF area or anything, but they could always ask
TIF,
for,
so.
they could always ask for abatements.
I think he said,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a 20
But we're just here today to rezone.
in there.
Any other questions?
I have none.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Parker?
So I took a regional look at this from like the 30,000-foot level because of its location with Interstate 70 and the Morgan County comp plan, as well as Monrovia's, and then also looking at Hendricks County's plan. You know, this is an area that is going to develop in this fashion. So I provided you with maps showing what the county's plan and Hendricks County and Monrovia's areas looked like, just so you would have a feel for how I was looking at this particular request. And anybody have any questions about any of those maps that I provided? Didn't know if you had any questions about Hendricks County zoning or anything like that, because it's very similar to these types of uses that we're looking to develop on the Morgan County side for this region. And again, this area is important because it has the traffic flow and patterns and frankly, the concrete and the asphalt that's needed for these types of uses, as well as the potential for utilities. And you might have noticed in your handouts, you've got letters from water and sewer that will be provided to this particular development. And I think that will probably spur additional in the area as well. So for those reasons, staff recommended a favorable recommendation as long as it included the written commitments that were agreed upon by both parties. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
So you do have a commitment through the sewer people?
They provided a letter from the town of Monrovia saying that there was a willingness to commit for sewer.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in your packet. You got a letter from Monrovia and a letter from Rural Morgan, I believe it is, Rural Water. They're both in there, committing to their,
And this property is not contiguous with Monrovia's town limits, otherwise they probably would have annexed. So at some point in the future, when it does become contiguous, we would fully expect that they'll probably want to annex this property, but they're not in a position to do that right now because they don't have that contiguity.
Yeah.
So for the time being, it's our jurisdiction, and I feel like what we're recommending and what we're carrying out matches with what Monrovia wants to see for their growth in their area.
yep. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go to everyone that's signed up for support. Mr. Connor?
Good evening. Thank you for letting me be here tonight. My name is Michael Connor. I represent a couple of factors. One, the town of Monrovia, Phil Fowler, town councilman, asked me to represent the town council tonight. But also, too, I'm on the economic development for the town of Monrovia and the BZA. Over a year ago, the town enacted on revamping our comprehensive plan that it was outdated since 1997. We have completed that. We adopted that at the end of last year, and we went into the UDO and zoning map as well. Both have been updated and adopted. With that, we looked at the areas around our town in the buffer zone area for future development and land use. The land use that we looked at, this particular area where this project is at, was looked as a light industrial area, and we looked at several factors. Land use, we looked at also the water study that we had done jointly with the county, and also we had several meetings with the community with their input, what they would like to see the future of our town and the area to be. With the fact that on August 1st, the town had relinquished the buffer zone back to the county because that was the direction the county was seeking. We just asked that, the comprehensive plan that we invested in and the input from the town and the folks get utilized in cohesive work with the counties. But again, we speak on behalf of GDI and the town that we favor this development because this is what future land development looks like for our town. We currently have several development going on from a housing perspective. D.H. Horton, they still have another 560 homes left to build. Ryan Homes is looking at 260 more homes. Our population grew in this last census over 60%, and with the growth of houses, the people in the town, we look to supply not only services and utilities, but also to job opportunities. And this definitely gives opportunity for jobs. We do see a lot of growth and development on the north side of us in the other adjoining county, and we would like to see our county folks work in our county and the dollars stay in our county versus going across the county line. So other than that, any questions for me? I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, but again, we support this project.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Susan James? We need you to come up, talk on the mic so we have it recorded. Please state your name.
My name is Susan James,
Okay, go ahead.
and I am one of the two owners of CSM Enterprises, and I ask that you give this a favorable approval. you have any questions.
Any questions for? Yeah? No?
No,
All right.
couldn't
Thank you.
understand what
Thank
she
you.
said.
What's that?
But I couldn't understand what she was saying.
Diab? Mr. Diab, is that correct? Does that sound right? Make sure we said your name properly.
Hi, I'm Richard Dyer. I'm an attorney that represents the other sister that is involved with CSM Enterprises. I'm here just to answer any questions about the commitments, which we assisted negotiating and writing.
Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
No. I don't have anything.
Mr. Dillinger. Dillinger, excuse me. I'll get it right.
Good evening. My name is Mike Dellinger. I serve as the Executive Director of Morgan County Economic Development Corporation. And as a full disclaimer toward you, as we're iterating our support of this rezoning request, the county government is the largest investor in Morgan County EDC. We provide the not-for-profit economic development services that help our county with growth issues. And also, so that you're aware, representing the commissioners on my board of directors and executive committee, our board president is Mr. Brock, your plan commission president as well. I've been working with Mr. Sheik for several months now. The town of Monrovia is also an investor in the EDC and is supportive of this project. We have directed this project in a way that we hope it will be annexed someday when, as Laura noted, when the site is contiguous. Contiguity is important for annexation. And so we're here tonight to iterate to you our support. We believe this is the highest and best use for that area, and that you would provide a favorable recommendation to the county commissioners for the rezoning application. Thank you very much.
Hang on, can you answer his, Mr. Patrick's question he had earlier?
Sure, what was that?
Was it about abatement?
Yeah, will they be offering tax abatements? Will the area get full tax favorability or?
Well, I'm not really sure that that's a pertinent question to the land use issue. But I will say this to you, those tax issues are being negotiated behind the scenes with the developer and the County Redevelopment Commission, keeping in mind the fact that we want Monrovia to benefit from this in the future. But if this were to become a tax increment finance district, because it's not contiguous to the town, the County Redevelopment Commission would manage and oversee any bonds that would be related to this if it were a proposed TIF district. So I can't speak before the RDC acts, but I can tell you that we're looking at how do we use tax policy to benefit the county and the developer who wants to bring us this valuable investment.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
That is all we have for support. We will move on to opposition. Mr. Irby?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the commission. Thank you for having me. My name is Greg Irby. I'm an attorney just up north of you guys. I actually drove 39 on the way down here. I'm from Danville in Hendricks County. And I represent Pat and Rusty Deemer, who's sitting right there. And they are the unfortunate, very recent purchasers of a house right in the corner of this. It's the one straight across the street. And I don't know if there's a bigger map somewhere, but their side yard and front yard will be warehouses. And they closed on this property back in August. So we're pursuing some options in terms of some fraudulent sales stuff. But in the meantime, they found out about this 2 weeks ago. This is a retirement house, and they say, wow, we're about to have a bunch of warehouses in front of it. So I went ahead and, first thing I did was I looked up the comprehensive plan because I saw the first thing I did was look at the rezone requirements that you guys are deciding on tonight. And the first one that that it says you pay attention to is the comprehensive plan, which is why that's been referenced so many times. And I guess I'm just a little confused because I looked at the comprehensive plan and the property we're looking at is not an industrial. It's actually in a mixed-use area. And then I also looked at the priority development areas here. You can see the A, B, C, and D, and this property is not in either of those either. It actually is outside of the priority development areas. And then I just recently saw the Monrovia County comp plan that they put together, and it did show that half of it, it looked like, was an industrial, but the other half was still out, not industrial. So what I would ask tonight is that this be or either tabled if that's an option, which I don't think it is, but if it's not able to be tabled for a month, we haven't had an opportunity to talk to the developer. We just met him tonight. For the first time, no one's reached out to my clients, and they live literally across the street from this. So we would ask for either it be tabled for a month, just so we can maybe try to figure something out in the meantime, or if not, then I think it goes against the comprehensive plan, and we'd ask for an unfavorable recommendation. So, if you guys have any questions for me or my clients, the Deemers?
See, they never received any notification at all?
They got the notice just recently for this hearing tonight. It was the first time they learned of it. So we're aware that I've talked to some of the other neighbors, and people were aware of it, which is why this guy said, I'm selling my house now, and picked up and went to Pittsburgh or wherever he went, and my clients just found out about it this last week and are the unfortunate buyers of this property. So I wouldn't say they're necessarily opposed to it, but they're opposed to it if their house is still there. Because who would want to live across the street from and side yard from an industrial warehouse? They had conversations with the previous owner, specifically asking them, is there any future development planned? He said, looked him in the face and said, no, there's nothing he knows of. Turns out that wasn't true. We're working on that, but in the meantime, I can't imagine any property owner living across the street would be happy with these two houses right there. It's all agricultural right now. There are some areas in the comprehensive plan that are specifically designated for industrial. This is not one of them. So because of that, I'd respectfully request that it be an unfavorable recommendation.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ashley?
Well, I agree with the gentleman there that we just found out 3 weeks ago that this is going on. I've never seen a map or anything. I'm a property owner. I've invested all my money for the last 35 years in this property that joins this. And I've lived there I grew up in this area. My father lives next door. He's here as well. There's semis can't even drive up and down our road. And I don't know how I expect to get semis in an industrial area when the road's not, and we don't want a 4-lane highway in front of my house. So is there any way I can see maps to see what's going on? The people that just moved in, I feel sorry for them as well, but I've invested, 30-some years of living here.
Yeah, we'll grab you a map real quick. We'll get you a map.
Do you live just north of the other people that was represented?
I live south.
Oh, you live south, okay.
How far south are you?
Past the curve, past the S curve.
Oh, past the S curve.
My development will be, we own this here. This would be I'm assuming this would be the S curve. This is Cecil's property here, and then this here. And my big question is, where are they gonna get semis in and out to County Line Road from warehouses? This gentleman who owns this house are gonna drive right by his house, and you're talking 700 to 800 employees. And then the stoplight deal with at County Line and 39 is an issue. I don't even go that way anymore because you can't get in and out because of the housing addition. all the people going on 39, so we have to go through Monrovia, so.
Your
That's just
last
this-
name again was Ashley?
Pardon?
Your last name again?
Ashley?
Ashley.
Yeah, I own 5 acres right there.
11125 North Everett Road.
Yep.
It's right at the corner, Kenny.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at right
Yeah.
here.
Right here.
Just curious to know more about the trucking, is, as far as the warehouses, maybe one thing, but the trucks coming up and down the road, they get hung up on this corner, the guidelines, they get hung up on my corner. They have cut the trees out where they was tearing trees up, but since then, that's questions I have.
Okay. We can't answer that, but I'm sure Mr. Sheik will answer it whenever he gets a chance. Thanks. Would Bo like to speak?
What did I see that you're talking about right here? Oh, yeah. You're gonna have to do something up here. Oh, absolutely. And see, the state's gonna make improvements here. There's gonna be a round.
My name is Harold Ashley. I got 15 acres next to my son there, Doug. I moved there about 50-some years ago. And at that time, Everett Road was gravel. And the neighbors and me had to pay to get it chip and sealed. And right now, that's what the road is, chip and seal road. So it's not going to handle semis. My one concern was about the water, because there's no water there for hydrants, and there's no sewage. And I didn't know what they was going to do about that part. And the road problem is going to be a big deal to me. That's about all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. William Mullen? Sandra, you're going to speak? If you come on up to the mic, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sandra Mullen, and I've lived at the corner of Zero Road and County Line Road since '68. We knew nothing about this meeting, and had it not been for Mr. and Mrs. Knight, we wouldn't have known anything at all. There is one field separating our farm from the McCullum farm that's being partially bought. So you can see the concern there. But the main concern for us, we live on the corner of Zero Road, where the bridge goes over 70, and the corner to turn on Frontage Road. We've had more semis stuck there, dropped off in the hole. People are having accidents there, and it is not conducive for semi-travel, although they do it all the time. And the cement trucks are a real issue because you cannot see getting out of our driveway, and they cannot see us. There's not even a hidden driveway or something sign around there, and I've called about that a couple of times. As a matter of fact, when a stop sign, I thought maybe a nice stop ahead sign would give people an idea that there's something not quite right here. But there's no signage there, there's no help there, and people are still trying to make that corner off of County Line Road and go over the bridge, and it's tough. And the road conditions, how are we ever going to have semis, cement trucks, and a lot of farm equipment in the spring and fall especially, and they can't pass one another. They get off on our side because the fence for 70 is just on about 4 foot on the other side. So they drive over on our side of the property, and don't begrudge them that at all. They've got to go somewhere, and I'd rather see it safely done and work about doing something about the ruts later on. But we need some assistance. If this goes through, in road conditions for safety's sake. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt, do you have any questions? Anyone? No? Okay. Mr. Zimmer?
My wife couldn't be here tonight, so I got a letter from both of us. Anyway, we're like Pat and Rusty. We just moved in about 3 weeks ago and had no clue what was going on, so maybe we should talk. Anyway, my name is Damon Zimmer, husband of Jennifer Zimmer, and strongly asking that you consider the benefit of all parties to this vote. And this is time to employ ways to ensure that there will be gain for everyone involved, not just the company expanding their footprint or the county receiving funds and, from the residents. So the road infrastructure, I know folks are talking about that, but it's terrible after you get off County Line Road coming over to Everett, and that's where I live, 11262 North Everett. So that's where I missed that. Anyway, we have a boat. We can barely even get down the road without having to stop and let other vehicles pass by. It's not conducive for any sort of large vehicle travel. But, anyway, so, and the intersection of 39 and 42, it's a disaster. We've only been here a few weeks, and there's a lot of road work that needs to take place for something like this to be put in place. The only way to be really in support of something like this, really the roads would need to be addressed, as we talked about. Additionally, you have 5 homes that I know of that will be severely negatively impacted with warehousing out the front window or the back window, depending where you're living, literally right across the street from this facility. So beautiful farmland, and now it's going to be a big warehouse. It's not acres away. So the way the homes are positioned, they sit at the front of the properties. There's no tree barriers, and there's no way really to get around it from a road standpoint. But, I would ask that you would ask GDI to compensate potentially for these 5 homes, again, the ones that I know of, for their dedicated value, if they wanted to maybe purchase this out or something along those lines to accommodate the impact that's taking place to the neighborhood. I would assume this wouldn't be, that big of a deal considering the amount of money that's going into a project like this. Additionally, the county should simultaneously potentially rezone these 5 properties commercially as well, maybe grandfathering these 5 owners into it so they can live in their homes and have their ability to have flexibility with their rezoning. So something like that. So just trying to find amicable ideas to make it work for all parties. But, lastly, I would ask the condition that GDI put no lighting on their buildings facing these homes. Because I know that's the last thing I want to look at in the middle of the night is a bunch of lights. It's just kind of why we moved where we did. So anyway, with these conditions, that would really be the only reason I would be in support of it. Otherwise, I would ask that you decline the rezoning request till another time when the safety of all residents can be benefited. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Where do you live at compared to where this being built at?
What's that? I'm sorry?
Where is your residence at on the map?
He's south on Everett Road.
Yeah.
He's got a piece.
Okay.
It's not on our drawing. It's down just south of that drawing right there.
I need to know.
Thank you. There's anything else?
Cross down here, like directly across down here. Directly across down here
No, he's
somewhere.
actually down.
It's just right there, yep. There he is,
He's
Melanie.
within 600 feet of that. His north line is within 600 feet.
She's
Yeah,
got it right there.
Melanie, right there it is.
Right there's where it's at.
Mr. Sheik, would you like a rebuttal?
Thank you. I appreciate all the folks who spoke. I certainly understand their concerns, and I feel especially bad for the folks who bought a home not knowing that this was in the works. In regards to the folks who just bought homes, and maybe are suggesting a continuance our thought on, I mean, we have nothing to do with that. And that's, in my mind, that's between the person that sold it to them and them, not us. A lot of discussion regarding the roads. So whenever we do a project, you know, many times you're talking about a 2-lane narrow road. We have to have wider roads with decel lanes, and we work with the county highway engineer to make sure that because we know there's gonna be a lot of truck traffic. So we need to get that road widened and improved. We also need to have water and sewer. And if we don't have those things, then we have no project. So, so what our plan will be, so one, we will be improving the roads. County Line Road from 39 all the way to Everett Road. And then we'll improve Everett Road, at least a section of it, until we need to go to the end of our development. What we typically do in other locations is we will work with the local RDC to get some TIF funding, and then we often will buy those bonds ourselves. And then when we build the project is when we build the utilities and the infrastructure. So we do that all at the same time. The fact that it's not ready for us now is not a concern. It will be when we're done. It has to be. So. Did I answer all the questions?
I guess, we maybe find a way to restrict the semis from going west. They wouldn't go west anyway, would they?
West of Everett? Yeah.
They'd always go towards 39?
They will go to the interstate, I'm sure. Yeah.
Because the one lady, she lived west, about a mile.
And we've talked with, I mean, we've had several conversations with Tony Hinkle.
Yeah.
And then he's also been talking with the Hendricks County Highway Engineer.
Mr. Ayers?
Yeah, and so there's been some coordination about that. There's a couple, they're not even culverts, they're little small bridges, but those need to be repaired as part of it. So we've had several discussions, and part of our project would be the improvement of all that infrastructure.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
All right, this closes our public portion of the hearing. Once again, we're here just to hear a rezone at this time. The floor is now open for discussion. Absolutely. Mr. Sheik, did you say they're going to put the roundabout in 27?
Terry, you and sitting in the surveyor's office, have you been working with sewer people or anything like that about getting sewers and stuff out here?
Not the sewers. That's Monrovia who's going to run the sewer. It'll go through Monrovia for the
I'm
sewers.
asking if you have been
Yeah.
involved in it.
No, we worked with Monrovia on a big drainage project about 8 months ago, wasn't it, Lauren? Something like that. And we studied that entire area at that time. So we've already got a drainage study for that area. So whenever you know, if this gets passed, we already have that study done. So, because that's where Monrovia thought their growth would be, so we went out and studied the drainage. So. Any other? Any questions or comments or? No? This will be a recommendation to approve or deny, or no recommendation to the commissioners when we have a motion. And then the motion will be heard Monday at the commissioners' meeting. Is that a morning or an afternoon meeting?
Morning.
Morning meeting?
We moved it to morning.
The final say is at the commissioners' meeting. They say yes or no on our recommendation. Whether yes, either way, they hear that motion. So I will call for a motion.
Are these commitments already a part of this, or would they need to be a part of the recommendation? Okay, I'll make a motion that we, let me reference forward petition Z 22-03, a favorable recommendation with the written commitments that were presented for the I-1 zoning request to the commissioners.
We have a favorable recommendation motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Rumball seconds. Sorry, Fred, I saw Bill first. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. This will be heard 9:30 next Monday, here in this, right here in this room in the commissioners meeting. That's it. We'll move on. Ms. Parker, do you have anything you'd like to add? It's a Wednesday? Oh, that's, oh, okay.
Veterans Day in there, holiday or something. Columbus Day.
Cancel it. October 12th.
Ooh, I won't be there either. We're running the meeting.
So
She
far,
was just giving her report.
we only need 5.
Is anyone else not gonna be able to be here on the 13th?
12th.
12th, excuse me, 12th?
I don't know if I'll be here or not. Maybe in the field.
It's not, I guess you're okay. Just your chairman and vice chairman won't be here.
Notified me.
Does anything else need to come in front of the board tonight? If not, I'll call for a motion.
Second.
A second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Meeting is adjourned. All of them seconded it. Who hadn't been on there, put them on there. Mike's still back there, he, dog out.
Tracy, you have a good one, Sarah.
No,
Beg your pardon?
if you didn't talk to adjacent people, I could see somebody.
Buyer beware.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, I do too.
Unfortunate for them.
Yeah.
You also have to.
They should pop them for the seller if they really